listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Joining me on the DolphinsTalk.com podcast is former first-round pick out of the University of Maryland who played 8 years in the NFL, Shawne Merriman. You can follow him on Twitter at Shawne Merriman. Shawne, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. And before we start talking about some of the stuff with the Miami Dolphins and football, I know right now you have a little thing that you are giving away a Tyreek Hill autographed jersey. Why don't you tell our listeners in particular, who are going to be very interested in that, how they have a chance to win a Tyreek Hill autographed jersey?
Yeah. I'm. So I have this really cool giveaways going for Lights Out Sports TV. So anybody that downloads Lights Out Sports TV and reposts with a screenshot of what platform that Lights Out Sports TV you love, whether it's on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Vizio, we're on now, Philips, LGs, we're on all platforms, iOS, Android. So to enter, just repost, one of my posts that I put on social media, and a chance to win. But Ty's one of my favorite players, man. I love watching him, and I think he's just one of these guys that like transcends the game. He's just, you see one of him like every 15 to 20 years. You don't see that level of talent, combination of speed, and somebody that can really cause problems for defenses, man. He's just on another level.
Yeah, he's going to the Hall of Fame, and He puts the fear of God into opponents, like probably not since Randy Moss, maybe, of teams who have to cover him. Like, what do we do? Like, because the speed is just so overwhelming.
Well, what makes him just so dangerous is because he doesn't have to beat you with a deep ball every time. He doesn't have to run past you. I mean, he can take a bubble screen for 40, 50 yards, and that is where it gets dangerous because, hey, you can roll coverages. You can do all these things on the back end to try to cover up some of these, receivers. But when you got a guy who can make you equally pay by catching a slant or a slant and go or out pattern, you miss a tackle and he can be back there 30 yards in a second. That's what really separates him from a lot of guys in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at this Miami Dolphins team heading into this year with not just Hill, with Waddle and Mostert and Achane. And then, of course, at quarterback, you have Tua, who just got his payday, and he looks like he's in prime form so far in camp. We know it's camp, but he looks great so far. This offense last year was the number one offense in the NFL. Obviously, it didn't win a playoff game and go as far as, fans would have wanted them to on this team. Just that offense in general, with all the speed and all the weapons. What are your thoughts on that offense? Because it does seem like that is a tough one to defend. And you play defense, you would know.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. And I don't think people are talking about this enough when it comes to Tua. And because I'm in the combat sports, I'm on Lights Out Extreme Fight, which is my MMA company. By him picking up jiu-jitsu and learning how to fall, learn how to be more coordinated when it comes to that, you can tell in his body right now, Tua is in shape. He's never looked like this. He's lean. You can tell in his body, but in his face, he looks much healthier. He looks much more in shape. And I think that has gotten swept under the carpet a little bit because it's a big transformation he made within his body and him being injured. Tua's biggest issue was never whether he can play or not, or whether he can stay healthy. That was it. It was, everybody know he can go. Is that how long was he going to be able to stay on the field? And so I'm not surprised at what he's doing right now. I mean, obviously he got some great receivers to throw to out there, but the fact that he's capable of staying on the field has been a game changer.
Yeah, and I'm sure you heard this week of when he gave the interview about his experience with Brian Flores and that whole situation. As a player, did you ever see anything like that? Is this something that not maybe you experienced, but someone on the team that you're around experienced? Because it sounds like this went beyond being a tough coach and trying to be a tough coach on a player. Kind of went one step beyond that from the sounds of it, as an outsider at least.
It was a big mistake by Brian Flores. And I'm not getting into the weeds of what he said or how he said it or what actually was said. But that it just showed the inexperience of him as a coach. I don't think that there was a hatred thing involved, or I don't think there was a big dislike. I think that he was just being inexperienced. You got to learn how to coach certain players different. If he came up to me and said those things, it wouldn't bother me because I can go out and kind of use my aggression if he pissed me off, right? I can go out and use my aggression against those offensive guys. Your quarterback is the main focal point of your team, and he has to be not only physically ready to go, but mentally ready to go. So if you're tearing him down, if you're constantly saying these negative things, you can't say the same things to Tua that you say to Phillips, that you're going to be able to say to one of the D tackles or a linebacker. You can't. You have to understand that as a head coach, you're the biggest manager on the field. You're the manager of your coaching staff. You're the manager between your front office and the coaching staff, the manager between positions. You got to be able to go into an offensive team meeting, and you got to be able to go into a defensive team meeting and understanding your personnel and who you're dealing with. And that is where a lot of new head coaches fail at, because it's one thing to establish a mentality throughout your team, but you have to know who you're dealing with. Certain guys you can get on in a certain way, and it's okay. You can go up and tell a offensive lineman, he missed that block, you keep missing it, you suck, right? I mean, you can say those things to certain players, and they're going to respond different. You can't do that to your quarterback, that you're telling the, hey, if you go out and make a bad play, that he has to forget that play and move on to the next. You have to be able to do that. And by the way, I think that when it's not talking about, Tua played for Nick Saban. So we know he knows tough coaches. It's not like he's coming and he's soft, he's complaining. No, there had to have been some very derogatory things said where it was just kind of shooting at him and poking at him, because Nick Saban is as tough as it gets. But he also understands that you can't be a certain way with your quarterback. And I think that was a learning experience for Brian Flores. I think he's a better person, a better coach for it now. And he kind of alluded to it in this press conference. It wasn't like he shied away from it. He didn't get into the weeds of what was said, but I think he knew that he had some growing to do as a coach. So hopefully he learned his lesson, and Tua is in a much better situation right now than he was when he was there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a wild story, it seems like. But you are a great pass rusher out of the state of Maryland, and the Miami Dolphins just took in the first round a great pass rusher from the state of Maryland in Chop Robinson, who went to Penn State, but he's from Maryland.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on Chop and the type of player he can be in the NFL? Explosive first step, as explosive as I've seen in many years. Just your thoughts on Chop Robinson.
I said this before the draft, and I know that the quarterback was very quarterback heavy in that first round. Everybody looking for their next quarterback that's going to be there for the next decade or so. On the defensive side, the steal of the draft was Chop Robinson, and this is why and I love the the guy that the kid that was out of that went to Detroit, right? The linebacker there, out of USC, right? He came from.
Yeah, I'll have it in a
yeah,
second.
my name is slipping.
Yeah, but I'll find the name.
Yeah, so yeah, I got Chop one of the defensive player of the year, and there's a lot of talent coming out in this draft, but the fact that we know on the offensive side of the ball they're going to put up points, he's going to have the opportunity to get after the quarterback. And what's great about Chop is the versatility. You can put him on the left, you can put him on the right, you can blitz him down the A or B gap, and he has the capability to move around. And I hope that they're going to utilize him that way, because he's and I know they came from the same school, but he's very, very similar when he comes to the explosion and making plays as Micah is. And the biggest problem that Micah Parsons had last year is they kept him on one side of the field with his hand in the dirt. You can't keep players with that type of and level of ability on one side of the field. Our offense cannot know where he's going to line up that pre-snap. So I hope that they figure out that Chop is the same way. If he lines up on the left, he lines up on the right. He sometimes put his foot in the A gap or B gap, then come around the edge. You won't know how to block this dude, and he's going to be a tremendous. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a tremendous presence on that field for a long, long time.
Yep, and he's going to be lining up next to and around another great player in Jaylen Phillips, who is recovering from an Achilles injury, and I know you had that too when you played. They just took him off PUP a couple weeks ago, and he went through 1.5 weeks of practice, and I think he should be fine by week 1. He was hurt in late November. What was your rehab like from that injury? How long did it take for you to feel like, okay, I'm back from this injury? I feel like the same guy I was pre-injury.
Yeah, I reached out to him directly.
Oh, good.
Because,
cool.
I reached out to him on, I've been through it. And that Achilles, I've had knee injuries, I've had shoulder injuries. That Achilles is something different, especially when you're talking about from the pass rushing ability. And one thing about Phillips, his best part of his game is his explosion off the line of scrimmage. And that's going to take a hit a little bit until he gains the confidence in pushing off of it again. It's no doubt physically he's going to be healthy, but man, your mind plays tricks on you when you tear your Achilles, because you're always thinking about, if I push off of this thing the wrong way, if I put too much pressure on it again, is it going to happen again, right? And so my heart was with him when I saw it, because it's a devastating injury. The good thing is with him, he's young. He got plenty of time to recover. He's not at that age where, Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles and he's in his, almost late 30s, 40 years old, where that thing takes a long time to heal. With him, he'll be completely fine. And so my advice to him is just take it slow. Do not rush that thing, because what happens if you rush those Achilles injuries, compensation happens. It was probably my biggest problem, and what got me to kind of retire a little bit early. I got back on the field, right? I wanted to be the warrior. I wanted to be, hey, I'm Superman. I can get back on the field and do it. And I wasn't ready yet. So my knee started compensating. I started getting, calf injuries on my opposite leg, lower back stuff, because I was just compensating. I was trying to replace not being healthy 100%. So my advice to him will be to take that thing slow. You got plenty of time. Do not rush it. Know when to scale back. If you start getting a little too sore, don't try to have the warrior mentality to push through it, because you're going to set yourself back more than you are helping yourself. But if he comes back healthy, that group is scary, because at one you got to pick your poison. Who are you going to slide to? You got to slide to somebody, and somebody's going to be on a one-on-one, and any one of those guys on a one-on-one is going to be a big problem.
And eventually, at some point this season, Chubb will come back. He's got the knee injury. He's probably going to miss for 6 or 8 weeks, roughly. So when he comes back in the mix, and you got all 3 of them to deal with, yeah, that can be a lethal group right there with your pass rush. You look at the AFC East. You got the Jets. Rodgers, he's healthy this year. And then you got the Bills, who've lost a couple wide receiver weapons. I know you played for the Bills, so you probably follow them. What are your thoughts on the AFC East overall? Because that's a 3-team race where I think all those teams, outside the Patriots, as shocking as it is to say these days, those 3 teams are sort of like neck and neck. They're pretty even, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's probably the most complete division, where there's no one lopsided just winner. I played my time with the Chargers when we were playing the Patriots, where they just dominated, for 2 decades, and it was just tough to beat. I think right now that position is very even across the board. Anybody can take it. You can't, obviously I love the Bills. Still follow them, but they've lost Diggs. They lost a lot of their defensive guys. And they're trying to figure things out. Who's their go-to guy now? Who's that number one guy? And I know the kid they drafted out of Florida State. Can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's
Keon Coleman.
Yeah, Keon Coleman. If he, big wide receiver, great feet and all that stuff, but he's a rookie. He's going to have to go through a learning curve. I just think coaching matters, man. And I think the world of McDaniels. I really do. His coaching style, he's definitely a character. He's definitely a funny guy.
He's unique.
He's very unique in the sense of I played for some great offensive mind coaches, and everybody's unique in a certain way. And you can it comes across his, and I don't want to use the word genius level or whatever, but when you have someone as creative he is on the offense side of the ball, they always come across unique. Yep. And the ability to get on players, but also relate to them. And that is very important in this day and age. And I think he's one of the most relatable coaches in football. And that's going to resonate throughout that locker room and throughout that team.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 more questions here, then we'll let you go. I want to talk about Lights Out Extreme Fighting, Lights Out TV, and your passion for MMA. When did that passion start? And tell me about it in general, and tell the people who might not know about Lights Out Extreme Fighting and Lights Out TV what it is.
Yeah, Lights Out Extreme Fight is my MMA promotion. Yeah, I guess you could look at us as one of the feeders into the UFC. Our last, few champions or so all got a shot at the UFC, and we have the next up and coming superstars of the sport. And now, we're got a big fight coming up September 6th. It'll be live on Lights Out Sports TV. So you guys out there that don't have Lights Out Sports TV, make sure you get it. We got everything. When I tell you we got everything there, as far as your motocross, your motorsports, TNA wrestling's there, chess is on there, your outdoor sports, a lot of fishing, hunting, outdoor sports. So it's great, man. We got 250 movies and sports movies and documentaries on there as well.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're on every major platform. So if you guys got a Roku out there, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, iOS, Android, you name it, but download Lights Out Sports TV. We got a huge, huge fight, man, coming up September 6th. It will be in Long Beach, California, but you guys can check us out on Lights Out Sports TV.
Awesome. Last question for you, because you appeared on a show that I love like religion, and you've won many awards. First time All-Pro, Pro Bowls, Defensive Player of the Year. But what was it like to be on MTV The Challenge, being around guys like Johnny Bananas, CT, and those legends of that sport? Because I love that show, and I know you did the Champs versus Pros season, I think it was. That was awesome.
So that was one of the best experiences. And obviously, I was a fan of the show before, and so you got a chance to see the character of Johnny Bananas and get to know him like – these guys. By the way, CT is one of the most athletic guys. Like I would have never thought. Right?
Even today, like he's like mid-40s, he's still a beast.
I was so shocked, right? Because it's pros versus champs, right? Like,
yeah,
we're coming on as the athletes, but I got a chance to see CT up close. I was like, dude, this dude's an athlete, man. It's kind of crazy. Because he doesn't look like it, and then you see him, he's like, dude, this dude's a real athlete. But being there with him and Jordan Wisely, and all the champs who was there was awesome. I still talk to all of them. Matter of fact, Jordan Wisely is going to commentate in the telecast during our next fight on Lights Out. Lights Out Extreme Fighting.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is gonna be awesome, and that was amazing to do, man. I had a great time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that show. And I remember that season, like you were on there. CM Punk was on there, I think. There was a wide range of people. Lolo Jones, she was very competitive. Lolo's very competitive.
Dude, unbelievable. I mean, a lot of stuff got cut out that people didn't see, but she probably is one of the most competitive people I've ever been around in my life.
It's funny because she also did Celebrity Big Brother, and Ricky Williams was on. And I've had him on the podcast many times. And I asked him, I go, Lolo Jones came across as super competitive. He goes, dude, you don't even know the half of it. Ricky was like, you don't even know the half of it. She is just so competitive. So, yeah, that was awesome. So, Shawne, thank you so much. Everyone, again, check out Lights Out Extreme Fighting, Lights Out TV. Follow Shawne on Twitter at Shawne Merriman. And also that chance to win the Tyreek Hill autographed jersey. Go to his Twitter account. It just takes a simple retweet and stuff like that. And you got a chance to win a Tyreek Hill autographed jersey. I know everyone listening to this podcast wants that badly. So, Shawne, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have you on again sometime down the road. And I'll be watching that fight there on September 6th.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.